Public Safety and Justice Committee meeting. Call the meeting to order. First thing on the agenda, Brian Elsasser is on the phone. Can I have a motion to let him call in? Phil, a second. Rob, all in favor say aye. 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 Motion carried. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Sharon, Eden for the second. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. Informational items, we got the ETSB. Jody, would you like to give that one?
Good afternoon. Hello, is that better? So the ETSB is working on several projects right at this moment. We got about 4 or 5 different things going on right now. We're still waiting on approval for the consolidation grant for Stark County. We should have an answer for that within the next 9 days. So I should have a positive answer for you by next month's meeting, hopefully. Happy to answer any questions for anybody.
Any questions for Jody? With the remodel for Bartonville's done and Peoria's done for the 911 dispatch,
Yes,
correct?
they're all done.
And
Yep.
is that working out well for everybody?
It's working really well. Right now, we're moving to the NG 911 project. That's kind of touch and go with with some of the testing that they've done before we can do a cutover. Our cutover was supposed to be next week, but we're pretty sure that's not going to happen. So it probably won't happen until mid-July now.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nate's in trial today, so we don't have a public defender report. So we'll go on to resolutions. The first one's the Metropolitan Airport Authority of Peoria Police Service Agreements. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Eden and Brandy for a second. Brian, take it away. Thank you.
Hello. We'll actually have 2 police service contracts up for resolution today. This first one is with the Greater Peoria Airport. And just a little background on this, I think we spoke about this before. What we did was have a third-party cost study done on what actual costs for services, because we have been behind the curve. And so the bellwether study came back, and we began negotiations with the Airport Authority Board, and we came up to the way we did this, we got the close as we could to actual costs in year 1, and then we were doing 0% increases for the remaining years. Instead of doing a bridge up or a ramp up to get to that cost, we thought it would be best to take it right at year 1 for that multi-year contract. It was fairly significant after the cost study to get to the price point that we did. And this will be a further conversation for other police service contracts that we have. And when we've had a lot of internal discussions about this, yes, we want to get it up to we're no longer subsidizing these contracts. However, there's collateral damage once you get up to a certain price point too, where your customer or the entity, they're going to be more watching the services perform, meaning not so much the airport, but other police service contracts sometimes because of staff, and we have to pull them from district to a different part of the county. So that's why I always like that variable of a 10, 20% to take that argument away. If not, the undersheriffs will be having a lot of phone calls from these mayors and everything else. But for the airport, I do look at this one a little bit different. This is, you know, more like it's an entity, it's a business. But we came to a resolution, and that's what's presented here today.
Okay, how many years is this for, Sheriff?
The airport, Dunlap is 5. This is a 3. Airport 5. I got them backwards. Yeah.
Okay.
5.
Do we have any questions for the sheriff? Steve?
No, thanks for the update. Did we change any terms and conditions with the airport authority as far as the coverages and the services? Or is it pretty status quo as to the service we've been providing and meeting their expectation?
Really, the contractual language from previous agreements was pretty much verbatim than what we've had before. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? Nay? Motion carried unanimously. Okay. The next one's the Dunlap Unit School District Police Service Agreement. Can I have a motion to put that on the floor? Randy, Rob? Okay, Sheriff?
It's kind of segue in what I was discussing before. The difference with the Dunlap contract, though, there is a 3% annual increase on this contract that we agreed to. So this is the 3-year contract, still a significant increase at the front end. And to keep up with COLA, we had the 3% for the subsequent years.
Any questions on this one for the sheriff? Okay, all in favor say aye. Whoop,
Aye.
whoop, hold, wait a minute.
I
Phil,
may
go
have
ahead.
missed it. I may have missed it. How many are you providing there for Dunlap? I may have missed it in here somewhere.
That's 2 officers
2 officers.
throughout the school year.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
And the airport, I mean, Dunlap is a little bit interesting because we do have to take into account that the school year is different than a calendar year. So there's vacancies, there's months. And I've said this in the past, we get those officers back during the summer when there's a high volume of PTO, or it allows them to burn their PTO hours where it doesn't affect other patrol operations. So it's usually a wash, but if not, we would have to be backfilling the overtime spots at the school during the school year. And obviously with what's going on in the world, I think this is going to be other school districts. I'm forecasting that you hear what's going on in Washington. I think there is going to be grant funding. There's going to be funding sources for a lot of our school districts across the nation where there's going to be more of a need for this. So the good things with both of these contracts, we're trying to set a baseline for all other police service contracts to at least get that cost so we're not subsidizing.
Okay, Rob?
My question is, if you said you put the amounts as close to break even as possible, that's based on current contracts with the deputies, correct?
Yeah, and that's where there was a significant increase on this one, because look what we've done since the last 4-year contract. We have longevity. We had our pay scale reductions, the step reductions. So there was an impact, but however, we know this too. If patrol goes into, I think they're up this year, that they go into labor negotiations, and that there's an impact there. So it's trying to find the balance. And I think Scott will attest to this. We do like the multi-year contracts. And years before, we do this on an annual basis. However, it's going into budget season right now. Some of these, we're trying to have these conversations with other police service contracts to know if they're still going to be in the game or not. And it's quite literal that we might lose some of the police service contracts that we currently provide. So it's best to have these at least informal conversations to kind of, gauge them to see where they're at, so we can budget appropriately.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, opposed, nay. Okay, motion carried unanimously. Okay, next we got the SFY 23 Problem Solving Courts Evaluation Contract, and Mark Bronke. Mark, welcome. hold on a minute, Mark. I have to have a motion to put that on. Eden, a second. Brandy, thank you.
Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, everyone. This first resolution that I actually have two today, is regarding a problem-solving court evaluation contract that we're looking to enter in with Illinois State University. This is part of our 4 problem-solving courts, which are Veterans Court, Mental Health Court, Drug Court, and our DUI courts. As a part of being certified courts by the Administrative Office of AOIC, they require a evaluation from an outside vendor to evaluate the efficiency and operation of our problem-solving courts, primarily to make sure we're operating in accordance with the certification standards. 5 years ago, we partnered with Bradley University. Our researcher from Bradley had since retired. When we reached out to that person to conduct this evaluation again, they didn't have any other researchers, so we had a contact with Illinois State University and reached out to that university to do that. Most of the evaluations throughout the state of the problem-solving courts has been done by university personnel, primarily because it holds down costs and they use graduate students to assist them in the research. This is for just over $28,000 broken up into 2 semesters. So part of this would be funded in state fiscal year 22, and then the other half of it in fiscal year 23, the first part of fiscal year 23, and then a comprehensive report at the end. This is funded through our probation service fees and not through the general fund, so those funds were made available from our probation service fund account. And be happy to answer any questions regarding this contract. We're just asking that we be allowed to enter into an agreement and a contract with Illinois State University to conduct this problem-solving court evaluation.
Thank you. Any questions for Mark? Eden?
I'm looking at the sponsored research agreement and it's not filled out. It's blank. I just wonder if there's a copy of it somewhere.
I believe the contract Illinois State University sent to me was, this is not the one that we will sign. This is a draft of that I sent to Jenny for review to make sure that it met all the requirements of the county to enter into that agreement. But mine is blank as well. Because we've not entered into it yet. We've not signed the contract at all yet. This was the draft of what we would be entering into.
I mean, I have no problem in principle with this idea. I think it's great. I just noticed that our agreement is just the template.
So Jenny, can we vote on it even though that's not signed, or does it need to be signed first?
Yeah, so typically the final version of the contract is sent to our office and approved before any signatures go on it. I was just flipping through to see that the resolution had the requisite language. I think someone will need to amend to say upon review and approval by the state's attorney's office, because this one is worded that you would be able to sign it right now. Scott would be able to sign it. And we are missing like the statement of work. And have they provided that to you, Mark?
I thought I had attached to the agenda briefing the scope of work. It's a 2-page document that was provided.
I do see that.
But I'd be happy to get them to send me a signed agreement from their side for your review, Jenny, if that's the process you want to follow before we vote on, or is voted on.
Well, I think you guys can go ahead and vote today as long as we amend the resolution to say that the state's attorney's office has the opportunity to approve it before it's signed.
Eden, would you like to?
I move to amend to what Jenny said.
Randy, second? Okay, we got the second then, so we should be good on that. Any other questions from anybody else? I have a question. Bradley did it the last time. We have not seen a report from that to see how you guys did. Can you bring that to us on the next meeting?
Sure, I can
Because,
make
I
that.
mean, it'd just be nice to see, we're approving this stuff and to see how the courts are doing on it, that it would be, I think, more transparent for everyone.
I know it's out there somewhere. It predated me, but I'm sure I can track down that final report.
Okay, that'd be wonderful. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor with the amended motion that this will go through once the state's attorney's office reviews it, say aye.
Aye.
What?
Are we voting on the amendment or the full motion?
Aye.
Okay, we're voting on the amendment, and then we have to re-vote it again? Okay, we're,
Vote to amend it, and then vote to
okay.
adopt it as
We're
amended.
voting on the amendment right now. Thank you, Steve. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, nay. Okay, that passed. Now we're voting on the amended amendment. Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Oppose, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the last one is FY 23 Adult Redeploy Illinois Grant. Mark? Once again, can I have a motion to put it on the floor? Steve, second. Brandy? Okay, now Mark.
This is a continuation grant that the Peoria County has received from the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority for our state fiscal year 23 redeploy grant. Just to give you a little historical perspective, this grant was first made available and Peoria became a part of this in 2013. The specifics of why this grant was made available by the state was to identify high-risk offenders, however nonviolent offenders, who were in the prison population, that they wanted to see if they can provide a more cost-effective method of supervision of those nonviolent offenders in the community versus the cost of incarceration. They put the supervision rate for a person out of custody around $4,000 a year versus the most recent on their DOC site at about $35,000 a year if they're incarcerated for that year. Peoria County, being a larger site, met the criteria for application for this grant back in 2013, and through cooperation with our collaborative partners, the State's Attorney's Office to Judicial Area, this gave the court a secondary option to a prison alternative by putting another tool in their toolbox for having a redeploy type of probation program. This is our highest level of supervision that we provide to people on probation. The contacts with these people range anywhere from 4 to 12 times a month, highly supervised, access to electronic monitoring, supervision, drug and alcohol education and supervision. This grant is for $282,000, which is around a 25% increase from last year, primarily because of the fringe costs for the personnel, because this grant fully funds 2 of my probation officers plus a half of a supervisor to supervise the program. So over the last year, just because of costs, they awarded us, again, about 25% more. The main purpose of this is to save the state money, and this program has saved the taxpayers money, including in Peoria County. So every person who is sentenced to be a part of the redeploy program is potentially a $35,000 cost savings to the state of Illinois taxpayers. And because of that, and the cost of the grant, we typically supervise on an average daily basis anywhere from 50 to 80 clients. We get around 30 to 35 to 40 new cases per year, and that has remained consistent over the last couple of years. So for every person who gets sentenced to this program and successfully completes it, that is a savings to the state. So we're asking, we've received our award letter. We're asking that the intergovernment agreement will come at a later date. If anyone who works with the state knows that often the state fiscal year starts July 1. It's not unusual that we don't get the executed contract till after that date. That's pretty customary when you're dealing with these grants. But once we get the fully executed, we're asking in here that we be able to enter into that intergovernment agreement to continue this grant.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the first question.
Okay.
What's your success rate?
So over the, I put together and provided Mr. Sorrell a copy, just some bullet points. It's been distributed to everyone. Okay. It just kind of highlights the most recent 2 years. And the reason I went with the last 2 years is that this past fiscal year, and even into the last half of the fiscal year before, you know, we were bitten by COVID and the slowdown of the courts, and our volume is not indicative of what it customarily was. But over the last 2 years, which they published the reports, we are executing at about a 65% completion rate. That may not sound like great in the world of averages, but in the world of court services and probation and people completing and not going to prison, that's a pretty respectable clip. It's about or even a little bit better than what we see from people who are just on regular probation. So by taking the high supervision of these clients, we have increased our chances for that population to successfully complete. What we don't have and what we are in dire need of, but this takes research beyond us, is what happens to those people who complete the program. So we can tell you how many people complete. I can't tell you how many people of those who completed stayed out of trouble for the next 5 years, for instance. That's just not available to us as a probation department, and I don't think there's an outside entity that's able to capture how many people actually do not go back into the system.
Pre-COVID, was your success rate higher or lower?
No, it was about the same. Actually, because our numbers have been low over this last, if you look in the agenda briefing, we only had 12 exits so far in state fiscal year 22. Normally we have, 30, 40, 50 completions. So you can just see by those numbers that that slowdown really hurt us. But no, it's been about 65%, 70% consistent over the last 10-year period.
Okay. I kind of knew you had a good success rate. I just wanted to let you toot your own horn so the public can hear that, because
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't realize that their tax dollars is at work and doing a good job. So I asked Scott on this one. I don't want this one on the consent agenda. I want this one put on the regular agenda, so that way if you would like to come to the meeting and
Sure would.
and give that report, that the whole board should hear that.
And again, I don't want to, since you're giving us a chance to talk about what that savings looks like, I did put it in there that, again, the last 2 years prior to this one, the 282, we received $444,000 over that 2-year period to run the program, about $225,000 each year. And again, looking at the cost savings on the state on what it costs for a year incarceration, it's saving the taxpayers about $1 million over those 2 years, so $500,000 a year. So it's this is also a collaborative effort throughout the state. There's 33 participating redeploy counties, so you multiply that by the 33 counties who are doing maybe not the same, but maybe some are doing better than us, and maybe some are doing a little worse. But overall, each site that's funded is an indication that if they're willing to keep throwing dollars at us to keep running our program, we're obviously saving them money in order to do that. They're not just going to give us the money for free if we're not proving the effectiveness of the program.
Eden?
But to reiterate, you've proven the cost effectiveness of it, but you can't measure whether these people are staying out of jail after you, right? Because they committed another crime. You just don't have the data for that.
We don't have a tracking method. Once someone leaves our office and they relocate, there's not a real way to track whether they've been in trouble. What we do know is this is typically a 30-month program. And for those who do any research in criminal justice, if somebody stays away from getting involved, even if it's on a probationary period where they're being highly supervised and they remain 2.5 years from committing new crimes, the success rate of them not going and continuing to commit crimes after that 30 period of time, it rises substantially that they're not going to get involved in criminal activity, or not least not to the level that's going to be where they're going to get incarcerated.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you all.
Okay, next on the agenda is review of executive session minutes. Do we need to vote on that, Jenny?
You'll vote to adopt the recommendation of the state's attorney's office on that.
So we'll do it after you talk, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So it is the recommendation of the state's attorney's office that previously held minutes continue to be held because the need for confidentiality still exists, and to go ahead and destroy the executive session audio recordings that are more than 2 years old, except for those that relate to pending litigation.
You can have a motion to accept that. Rob, Brandy for a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. We're up to miscellaneous. Does anybody have anything in miscellaneous? Steve?
I'd just like to recognize the service of Captain Gay and the service to the county, and maybe give him opportunity if he'd like to say a couple words of his future impending retirement, which is days away, I think, right? So your floor is yours, sir.
Thanks, Steve. I would just like to say that it's really been an honor to serve at the sheriff's office. It'll be 29 and a half years. My last day of work will be June 30th, a week from Thursday. It's been a pleasure. Yeah, exactly. It's been a pleasure. I'm certainly going to miss the people I've worked with. I really enjoyed helping helping the organization, doing the best that I can. I appreciate you taking the moment just to acknowledge that. So I just wanted to say thank you. I don't have a lot to say other than that. It's been a great career, and I appreciate all the support. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Any other miscellaneous? Rob?
I was just hoping maybe somebody from the sheriff's department real quick could give us an update on the deputy and maybe the progress his recovery is, the deputy that was in the accident. And then also just, I know last month the sheriff spoke to the executive committee about the hiring and the dire need for employees out there, and if we've lost any more employees since you spoke last month.
Deputy Tim Gilmore, I just checked on him last night. He's starting physical therapy this week. It's still a long road. They have not found any more broken bones. There for a while, they were finding a new broken bone a week. So it's still a very long road. He's still months away from coming back to work. He gets an MRI, I think, at the end of the month to see what else is going on with him. But he's slowly but surely he'll come back. And then on staffing, I think we're still 22 correctional officers down. We have some in the middle of onboarding, 3 to 4 of them that will be starting here in about 2 weeks. On deputies, we are 6 down, but we have some projected retirements coming up, so we have to stay on top of that. But it's the deputy side, we're doing okay. It's the correction officer, we're still struggling. I think we're having 6 overtime shifts a day right now, so our employees are really going through a lot right now.
Any other questions before Chris takes off? Okay, thanks, Chris. Anything else for miscellaneous? All righty, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.